We were streaming the Super Bowl for one of our clients, Verizon. When we would post about it before the game and after the game, we get a tremendous amount of press around that, attention and recognition, probably get a good 6 or 8 weeks of life from it.
Hey, welcome to Search and Revenue, a series with the best B2B marketers in the industry, covering SEO strategies, AI lessons learned, and CRO tactics that work. I'm Daniel Horning, an SEO strategist at Linkflow, and I'm joined by our very special guest, Jed Corenthal, Chief Marketing and Business Development Officer of Phenix. How's it going, Jed?
Very well, Daniel. Great to be here.
Why don't we kick it off our conversation just with you sharing a little bit more about your background in marketing and what that journey looked like, how it landed you at Phenix.
My journey has been a little crazy. I've sort of had two phases to my career. The first was more on the corporate side, where I worked in the music industry at Sony for many years. And then I sort of transitioned into the sports industry, where I worked for the Association of Volleyball Professionals, and then I worked for the NFL for a number of years. And then from there, I ventured on my own and have been an entrepreneur probably for the past, 15 or 20, 15, 18 years. Started a couple of companies, one of which I was able to exit successfully and sell the company to our investors. And for the past 7 or so years, I've been working at Phenix and handling all of the marketing and business development for the company. Phenix is a real-time streaming video platform. So for any of your listeners who have ever experienced watching some game on their mobile or any sort of other device that they're streaming and hear about a play or a result from a text or a tweet or a friend, did you see that great touchdown? And you haven't seen it yet. That delay or that latency is one of the many things that we have solved. One of the many issues that are plaguing the streaming space currently. So we have been able to solve a lot of those issues currently. And so that's been the path.
That's really interesting. Along those lines, then, as it relates to, people have been saying video is the future for 25 years now, right? Video is the future.
That's true.
I think we're finally here. We're kind of up against an interesting time where there are, AI suggestions in search results, but a lot of those are still text. There's, AI has not yet been able to steal from kind of the video marketing side of things. So it's interesting. It's still an interesting landscape to explore. Can you give us an overview of the core components of Phenix's current marketing strategy?
Yeah, sure. So as a B2B company, we have to be disciplined and strategic in how we market, because we're not marketing to the end consumer per se. We're marketing to companies that would potentially license and use our technology. And those include sports leagues and properties and broadcasters. And we do a lot of work in the auction space. So we market to auction companies. So we have to be, as I mentioned, somewhat strategic in how we market, doing some of the traditional, if you will, old school, print, radio, TV, advertising doesn't necessarily impact our business as much. So what we try and do is kind of mix a few things together. We have some newsletters and blogs that we write and release on a regular basis. We do a lot of SEO advertising or SEO work to give us a chance to promote some of the keywords that make sense for our industry and our company specifically. We obviously attend a handful of conferences a year, so that's a good networking strategy for us. From time to time, we will do some trade advertising, whether it be in publications or other means, other platforms. We try and do a lot of podcasts because, we're in the content business. So trying to get a lot of content out as much as possible. A couple of years ago, we hired a video production company to help us create more video, both on the sort of, sales enablement side, but also highlight reels and other promotional pieces that we can use for meetings, for presentations, for conferences, things of that nature to send out to our database of customers and prospects. So it's a bit of a mix. One of the things that we have always tried to differentiate, if you will, is the difference between live and real time. Because of the speed in which we're able to stream, most people use those terms interchangeably. And the truth is, from a technological standpoint, they are not the same. So we try and create, or we have tried, I should say, and created campaigns like live and real time are not the same, where we, differentiate between what live is and the delay or the latency that live streaming has versus the lack of delay in real time streaming. So we want to make that difference so people understand that that's what we focus on is very different than your typical sort of live stream.
Huh, that's really interesting, especially as you think, I mean, you mentioned auctions.
Yeah,
That could be live, but if there's any latency there, it ruins the
exactly.
auction, right? For bidders that are watching live, but not real time, they miss out on the chance to win that auction.
That's exactly right.
Huh.
And I'll give you an example. So we work with a company called Mannheim, which is part of Cox Enterprises, massive company. And
Yep.
Mannheim is the leading automobile auction company. So what they do is they have, I don't know, something like 1,000 locations around the US where people will go in person to bid on cars that they want to buy. I mean, they basically have lanes at these locations, and a car comes up and it, could be a 92 Chevy Malibu or something, and people will bid on it right then and there. And what we've been able to enable them to do is now if you're watching that auction on your laptop or your mobile phone or any other device, you can participate in the auction and the bidding process in real time because we're streaming it in real time. So even if you're there in person, you don't get necessarily any sort of edge from a
Huh.
time standpoint because what we're streaming is essentially the same time that you're seeing it live. So in person, I should say. So we have helped their business grow quite a bit, over the past few years. But yeah, any sort of delay, if I'm watching that car auction, I would lose out because
Yep.
and even 2 or 3 seconds delay.
So when you, as you're taking that differentiation to market, you mentioned you guys are playing in a lot of almost all the channels. I mean, you're looking at SEO, you're looking at getting on podcasts. Where have you found is the most important to get that differentiation marketing and that messaging in, or the most kind of positive feedback?
We've definitely found that, from a social media standpoint, LinkedIn is a very good platform for us. It's a little bit more business oriented. So, and even kind of drilling down even further, when we post things that tend to be a little bit more technical, we get the most response.
Mm.
We also get the most response when we're posting about, let's say, an event that we streamed. For a couple of years, we were streaming the Super Bowl for one of our clients, Verizon. So when we would do that and post about it, we would get a lot of response. We do what's known as a latency study around the Super Bowl, where we compare many of the providers that are streaming the game and look at the differences in latency that they deliver to the fan. And we compare that year over year over year. We've done it. I think this was the fifth year that we've done it. And we get a tremendous amount of press around that, a tremendous amount of attention and recognition. So that gives us a real spike in traffic and just a real spike in awareness of who we are and what we do.
That content, do you guys then kind of multi-purpose it across social
100%.
media,
Oh, yeah.
SEO? Okay.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's
We try and give it as much life and as long a life as possible. I mean, obviously, the Super Bowl game comes and goes, but we do tend to see even still within a couple weeks after the game, we're still getting some press pickups. We're getting some
great.
attention. So it gives us, between before the game and after the game, we probably get a good 6 or 8 weeks of life from it.
As you guys are doing that, as you guys are going to market with some of this first party data, how do you differentiate what you offer both for real time and live streaming from the other platforms that are offering
Yeah, I mean, that's the $64,000 question.
that.
Some of the things that we've been able to accomplish, nobody else has. And there are two that are specific. One is scale. So for instance, this Zoom chat is essentially using the same technology that we use to some extent in our streaming. It's a protocol known as WebRTC, which stands for Web Real-Time Communication. And all of the video conferencing tools use, this WebRTC protocol. And as do we use a form of it. We've built on top of it and have a number of proprietary pieces to it. But nonetheless, for simplistic sake, this is the kind of latency that we're delivering in our streams. The difference is that we're the only ones that have been able to prove the ability to scale to hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people while still maintaining this less than half a second of latency that you're seeing here. The other thing that has separated us and where we try and, to your point, differentiate ourselves is what's known as advertising insertion or ad insertion. When you have a delay in your stream of 30 or 40 or 60 seconds, it's very easy to insert an ad within the stream to take you back and forth. But when you have, less than half a second or 400 milliseconds in some cases, to be able to insert an ad within that stream and keep it seamless for the user is very difficult and very challenging from a technology standpoint. But our guys have been able to figure that out. And so we're the only company in the real-time space that offers what's known as real-time server-side ad insertion. So we're able to insert these ads while you're watching a stream on whatever device it is that you're watching. So it's essentially mimicking, sort of a linear TV experience where you're watching the game and then it cuts to a commercial and then it cuts back to the game and back and forth. Doing that with, a half a second or less of delay is, as I mentioned, extremely challenging, but something we're very proud of and something that stands us apart.
That's really impressive and makes a lot of sense learning how the sausage is made on the back end. It's something that I don't think about as a user, that half a second becoming 2 or 3 seconds changes the whole experience and the ad placement. I mean, the whole thing goes out the window.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but imagine if we were, 2 or 3 seconds off. The sync between our conversation would just be a mess.
We've been on those Zoom calls early days, right? I mean, even within the last year, where there will be some sort of a Bluetooth delay or something in the audio, and nobody can speak at the right time. And it's just it ruins the call. You almost have to restart it.
Very uncomfortable, and so even that little, even that small latency makes a huge difference when you're dealing with any sort of interactivity, whether it between the users or if you're interacting with the content. If you have a delay, it doesn't work.
Okay, so how do you take that data and then combine it with maybe some user interaction, web traffic data, social referral data, and make marketing decisions then to carry? You guys are obviously very proud of that core product. It works very well. It's best in industry. How do you then use the marketing data to make decisions on where and how to spend ad dollars or SEO input?
You hit it right on the head. I mean, those are the things that we do focus on. As I mentioned, we try and create as much content as we can, whether it be blogs or posts on LinkedIn or other social media channels. So we take those studies and we take that data and incorporate it into our marketing materials, our sales materials. We try and do case studies on clients. By us powering what they do, it stands them apart. It enables their business to a greater extent. For instance, Live Me Up, which is an e-commerce platform, has seen a tremendous amount of increase in clients since they started streaming their e-commerce stores using Phenix. One of the things that they do, which I never even knew about, was this concept called live packing. If you ever watch a live shopping channel, they'll talk about this item and, okay, well, you just bought it and that's that. What Live Me Up does is they pack it right in front of you. Daniel Herring, you just bought this great t-shirt, and now they take the t-shirt and they put it, they pack it and they put it in the box and they put your address on it. And it's like, It goes right there. It's like it almost like it's getting sent to you right then and there in real time. And that uniqueness has really garnered a lot of attention, especially the younger generation, which is lower in attention and likes that kind of immediate recognition. So those are the things that we try and take advantage of. When we do our marketing, is to try and create those events and take those events and create case studies or give them added life to it.
That's really cool. So then when you guys are looking at like the marketing performance data as B2B and you're trying to bring in these new client partnerships to use your platform, what are your KPIs? What are those like really important metrics that you're looking at? Is it site engagement? Is it form fills? What does that process look like?
Yeah, it's interesting because we're still a somewhat niche industry. We're not sort of a candidate for typical lead gen. We're not a business where you can, throw 100,000 names on the wall and get, something from it. It's a little different than sort of a typical marketing
Mm,
entity and sales entity. So, a lot of what we rely on is referral, is word of mouth, is to some extent some of the networking we do at conferences and other live events. But we try and take the data that we have, and by incorporating it into the marketing materials we use, we try and target the industries that we know are the most relevant for us, whether it be sports
mm,
or sports betting, or auctions. So we try and target whether it be key people in those industries, key publications, blogs, et cetera, and try and make a little bit of a splash or an impact within those specific industries rather than just, let's just throw spaghetti on the wall and and see what sticks and go from there. We do get some inbounds, which is interesting. We redid our site about a year ago, and we got a lot of great feedback from it, and we added, trials and other things on the site. So we do get, a decent amount of inbounds, more than I would have expected, frankly. So that gives us, some leads right away. But again, we're not a real typical lead gen candidate.
right. Yeah, it's not a product that you can just go convince somebody they need.
Yeah, and
You
it's not a
can't.
product that, we're not saying to you, well, come to the Phoenix site and you can, buy this or buy that or something.
Yeah,
That's not what we do. I mean, we're not blind. We're never going to get 1 million people to our site because it's not that type of website. We're going to
right.
get companies that are looking at us and interested in working with us to learn more on the site, investors, press, media. Those are the
Mhm.
people that come to our site the most.
What have you seen shift in the marketing strategies by channel in the last 5 years? Like what are the top 1 to 2 that have really become the most effective?
Well, I mentioned LinkedIn, and I think there's no question that we get a lot of great play from LinkedIn. So we try and post as often as we can on LinkedIn. Our blog gets a lot of action too, especially as I mentioned before, the more technical we get, it seems to resonate more, with the community than if we
Mm,
just sort of, create something that kind of, pats us on the back, if you will. SEO is something that we work a lot in and try and identify where we are and where our competition is, and what are the things that we're doing that kind of sways the market or influences the market a little bit. As I mentioned, we're living in a kind of niche space still.
yeah.
But we're trying to get out of that and make it, a much bigger scaled operation. Networking at conferences, we're very picky and choosy with the conferences that we attend. So we make sure that we, make an impact on those. So I would say those, at least for right now, those are the channels that we focus on the most.
Have you seen 1 or 2 marketing channels or marketing strategies that have kind of fallen out or lost traction in the last 5 years?
Yeah, we've tried a couple of ads, a couple of trade ads. I would say more industry trades, whether it be sports or, other things. I wouldn't say they give us a lot of feedback. It's probably an awareness play more than anything else for us, just to get our name and our brand out there. Obviously, if I had an unlimited marketing budget, I'd be able to, you know, try and tie, as much as possible. What we try and do is is be very synchronous in what we do and where we do it, and keep that message, on point and the same wherever we go. So it remains constant where whatever platform you might see us on. So that sort of real time and live are not the same. Whatever campaign we're driving, we want to make sure that that's consistent throughout everything that we do.
And then the user, I mean, especially dealing B2B, you're looking at long consideration. So this user is going to interact with your brand on a few different platforms. If the
Right.
marketing messaging stays the same, it sounds like that's the most effective method
It
for
is.
them to catch the story. Then they're really educated on the differences.
We use video as much as possible because a picture tells 1,000 words, and
Correct.
we have a lot of our technology in demo form. So, we show demos on calls. We send demos to people. If we're appearing at a conference in person, we have a number of demos on our devices. When you see a delay of 30 seconds, it may not sound like a lot, but when you sit there and you watch a video and you see, sort of a black screen until that video comes up because it's delayed 30 seconds, it's extremely impactful. So,
Mhm.
so we have found those are extremely beneficial and impactful for us.
All right, great. Well, that was some really great insights. Thank you for that. I've got just four kind of closing lightning round questions for you
Sure.
to wrap up with. Number one is, what MarTech tool could you not live without, or software?
Salesforce.
Salesforce. Good answer. What about favorite book on marketing or business or branding?
That's a very good question. Believe it or not, I don't read a ton of business books. I find them to be somewhat outdated by the time I read it. So I don't know. I'd rather read stuff online than read a typical business book.
Yeah, that makes sense. That gets me to a good next question, which is your favorite podcast or influencer or speaker or channel to follow.
It's not a business for us, but it's a podcast called The Bulwark,
Okay.
which I love. It's hosted by a guy named Tim Miller, and it's just really interesting. And I learn and I listen to it, and I think it's fascinating.
What's one key marketing insight you know now you wish you had known 5 years ago?
Well, I think this is not just now, it's forever. It's preparation. It's being prepared for what call you have, what meeting you have, just making sure you know as much as you can about person on the other side of the table, call, wherever you might be, and researching him or her or their company, and just being as smart as you possibly can about what it is you're pitching and to whom. Know your audience. Most
Mm.
people don't listen enough, and they seem to like to hear themselves talk. And I think it's sort of a lost art to listen and understand, who you're speaking with or meeting with, and understand what their problems are and what are they trying to solve, and then work around that.
That's really smart. I'm taking that one to heart. All right, cool. Well, Jed, it was really good to catch up. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
My pleasure, Daniel. Great to be here.